Hello. Hi. Hello. I mean, I look at this space and the idea of speaking outside was actually quite difficult because I understand that you just can't hear anything. And somebody that's challenged in the hearing world nowadays, I know how that feels. So if anyone can't hear, just raise your hand and I'll do my best not to have a coughing fit or anything like that in the middle of what I'm trying to say. However, the thing about this space is this, isn't it? I mean, I think the word majesty entered me when I saw it, because we're here and nature is greater than us. I feel that. I don't know if you feel that, but whenever I stand in a space where nature is just abundant, I recognize how small I am, that I'm filled with just wonder of the awesomeness of life, because you can feel the forces of life in nature, and actually those forces ignore us, the human being, who ignores nature at its peril, who carries on and will do things that are destructive. Given a bit of peace and quiet, left alone, nature will come through that and it will blossom. And what does that say about us? Because we are part of nature. So when we talk about connection, when I see the word connection, this is the first thing we connect with, because nature lives in us. We understand that. We understand we're part of the plant world. We understand we're part of the kingdom of animals. We're also part of the kingdom of the human being, but also the angelic kingdom above. That's a mystery to us, unless you're clairvoyant or whatever. But basically, we have to have faith that we can be a channel and we can feel it. And it is if you feel and you are touched by wonder, you're making that journey, and we can connect to the inner story of the impulse of Camp Hill. We can connect with what it was that original group, and I don't want to go into the history too much, but I have to share with you where my interest comes from and what holds me in this time that we live in to my task of being a Camp Hiller. And it was that those people knew they had a task, and they had already started that task, and they were working quite happily in Europe, living as a group. The Goetheanum was being built. There was all these lectures, it was all coming in, and then absolute horror. Absolute horror. And they came, we know the story, here they were. But what they did was to bring those, I think, anyway, this is only my interpretation, I'm not a scholar of this, or what I see is that they brought these lectures alive. They brought life into that by working with those lectures. And in actual fact, they were working quite humbly. You would see people who were professionals, who were doctors with the wheelbarrows, going out and doing their business. You would see people who had been running organisations, who were teachers, but they would be washing the floor. What they did was they brought the lectures, incarnated it, in my view, into this world. Not just by reading, and certainly the reading and the understanding, that's necessary for the angelic forces to come with greater knowledge for man. But they physically, through their will, incarnated action. That's what they did. And it was just remarkable. We know the story, the impulse of Camp Hill. How much beauty did they bring into this world out of horror? I just find that overwhelming. I still find it exciting, and I'm boring because I can't stop talking about it. But they did. I have to come back to that point when I get myself into a state of hopelessness. That actually, no, that's nothing in comparison. If you can decide, and one of the things that Dr. Koenig and that group of people decided was that they were going to be a counterforce to evil through working with and serving the most vulnerable people of our society. And I find that an amazing thing, because actually they'd come out of a mindset of exterminating and getting rid of anyone that wasn't perfect. And they decided to live in the most compassionate way, but also to live as equals with our people. And that together with our people, they would build centres of light that would be a counterforce. And this came out of their compassion and their willingness to really try to find a way to connect with each other. Because human beings are not easy, let's face it. Actually, if anyone that works in the realm of the human being knows that actually we can be quite obstinate, we can be quite arrogant, we can be quite defensive, and we can be extremely awkward. So it does require something from us. It's not just from our people. Our people are our teachers. We know that. They are our teachers, but we're each other's teachers as well. We will stumble, we will fall. What matters is our intention to keep trying and to keep on keeping on. And I've always seen that in Camp Hill. Many, many times you've met groups of people who have had a little bit of a difficulty at some point, and then they meet each other afresh. And it is actually wonderful to see that understanding, because you have to have courage. When we talk about the Michael force, the real courage to live with each other, to be prepared to stumble and fall, to be able to get up, to be able to reflect. I mean, these people were learning about reflexivity. They were learning how to observe themselves, learning how to process what has happened, to put their own ego to one side. This is a group that started to really bring reflexivity into life. And they were therapists and they were teachers, but it was taking us into the realm of empathy. And I think there's something in the Michaelic age about empathy. And I mean, Jan, I mean, the talk about what's there left to say, really, how dare you? But it was, I was really, I just felt in awe of that. Because I have this feeling that with Michael, we concentrate so much on the spear and the daggers and with all our songs. And it doesn't feel, to me, it's the right gesture. The gesture of recognition is our gesture. And that's in each of us, even if you're coming out of a different mindset. We share within ourselves. They call it good, evil. We call it basic forces that are trying to outdo each other in ourselves. And it doesn't really do any good to beat yourselves up. You have to really meet yourself with forgiveness and compassion and humility above all else when you make a mistake or you're being a little bit overzealous with yourself. And that was demonstrated very beautifully. And the thing I think I would go, the other image I have of Michael, and he's often seen with these scales, And it's about, you know, you read the Catholic interpretation of good, evil, whether you've been good, bad, weighing up your soul when you die. In actual fact, I like to consider those scales as balancing. Our job, in our community, we talk about balancing. Our task, one of our tasks is to balance life. That we have needed to adapt and to accept that we are going to be working through and with regulations we didn't ask for. You know, we have what I call, when this first started, I getting my head around all this, what on earth am I going to do? And therefore, I need to search for a language where I can meet people to demonstrate that Camp Hill actually knows this and does it. But I have to find the language and create the images where people will hear me. And I'm fortunate, I'm a nurse, and so I can fall onto models of care and start searching everywhere for models of care. And of course, social pedagogy, it definitely, there's so many boxes, I can't even begin to tell you how much I find within models of care that actually relate to social therapy or curative education. It's slightly different, but it is there. And the point is, I realise I have a circle of influence in life and I have a circle of non-influence. And I say that because I left my work previously to come into Camp Hill because of all the malarkey in the trust. They called it a trust, health service being turned upside down. I went on maternity leave and I come back to find, we were a little oasis. I worked in drug misuse in Brighton. We were this kind of a little oasis that was ignored by the trust. And we just did our thing with a really fantastic, compassionate consultant who kept many people alive. He never turned people away. He understood. We're not going to cure people, but what we want to do is to keep them in the business of living and give a quality of life. And that's what we quietly did. But when I come back from maternity leave, the whole place was full of computers and people running them. And that was it. And my manager said, "George, what are you going to do now then?" I said, "I'm going to go to Camp Hill." And that was it. And Tim also had been caught out. He'd been caught out. He was in the most wonderful group of people doing really important therapeutic work with adolescents. It was called the Brunel Bettelheim group, another refugee who went to America and set up a unit for teenagers and young people in Chicago, and who wrote about this experience of his in the camp and how the human soul is tougher than you think. Give it love, give it the right ingredients like we do with nature, destroy it. But if you start feeding that earth again, it will recover and it will come back. And that was his point. To be a therapist, that's what you're doing. He wasn't a great deal different, actually. And this was coming into being in the UK at the same time as a new Children's Act with all the potential to cure everything. So the Brunel Bettelheim group, gone. And Tim was going to go to another therapeutic community, and I just said, no, I think I want to go to Camp Hill. So he came along, he met Gerda Bloch, who was a very, very, very special lady. I said, okay, I'll turn the job down. I said, just do it for 3 years. Well, that's 35 years ago. And I do the seminar, you do the mental health seminar, and then we'll just see what happens to the Children's Act. Of course, we all know in the UK, it wasn't an improvement in care for our children at all. It's really quite shameful. But in saying that, the people behind it do try. They are trying and they are searching. So the thing is to try and find the language, I think, that actually expresses it. And the first thing, I look at all you young people, full of hope, enthusiasm, light, innocence. But the thing I know about your generation is you question everything. You're a damn nuisance. You know, you can't just stand around in front of you and say, well, Rudolf Steiner said this, that and the other. You'll want to know why. And you'll want to tell me this is a bit, you're way out of your comfort zone. You don't really agree with that. You know, you're not short on that. But I think that is what gives me hope. Because I know you will question whatever is put in front of you, and it does need questioning. And I hope you'll always be open, and you know that you will need to learn the language of each side to find your position of balance in the middle of it, and to stand for your truth and your understanding. And the thing about your speech that actually really struck me, Jan, was how centered you were. I was just amazed, and I thought, wow. I'm trying to talk to people about how to find Holtong, and there's a lot of you here who understand that term, a lot that don't. In social therapy, it was talked about the house parent mother having a certain presence and being this kind of calm center. We know that that's what we need to be. And actually you demonstrated that beautifully. You know, I felt, oh, this is someone I could talk to. This is someone who is incredibly confident. I don't want to embarrass you, but I do think it's important for me, you'll hear all about it, the three of you that come from, because this is what we're trying to achieve, isn't it? That there's an inner knowing, this is my story. This is what I am connected to. But I need to understand what you're connected to. I need to understand you so that together, actually, we can see where this connects. And then you will get people's trust. And I'm really reminded that last year I had two experiences. One, both at Camp Hill. One as being in a situation where I was had my breath taken away in my own dialogue. I don't want to be rude about it, because I actually do think that people are trying very hard to create the communities and have a very a proud position, but it gave me a bit of a shock, and I couldn't find the words. I lost my whole tongue, sorry. I definitely was furious, if I'm honest. I was completely, I could feel myself a bit jangled, and I was really frustrated with myself. Because actually, I don't get like that with the authorities. I have to say, I've never really had too much of a problem, because it's a simple model they're coming from, and all I need to do, when I look at our scales, is put in place what's not my circle of influence, but my influence is to do it in a manner which represents how we are trying to be. And as long as the box is ticked, and I also completely support safeguarding people, the truth is that human beings can be actually quite cruel. And we do have a responsibility. I don't have a difficulty with that. I can get a bit fed up with it, but generally speaking, I am behind the consciousness of that, absolutely, totally, and I can demonstrate how this is done. And I can honestly say, having to become a word manager, I'm quite lucky. I'm obviously able to leave most of the complexity to others. I can just wallow in our life, and try to inspire people. But I completely understand what it is to have to try to work with all of these things. But I also know that unless we're behind what people do, they will kind of drift. So we'll start off here, I say, to people who are learning how to supervise, and then suddenly, without even noticing, very, 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 very carefully, we've left the line. And your job is to bring them back, to remind people what our task is, the importance of how you wash that floor carefully, and what's behind it, what's the image behind that work, that it's beautiful work. You're creating a space that really holds people. It's not to be taken frivolously or not done. That's quite a hard task, you know, and it's quite wearing on people. So I have a lot of understanding and sympathy for why we have to have people now with the eye that calls other people back and directs them. And even that group of people have got to start connecting with each other. The connection is easier. I don't know whether it's easier, but because of the absolute amazing work that was done in Camp Hill, I mean, it's not just about, the lectures weren't just about care. You had opportunities for the land through biodynamics. Look at it. Look at the art that was presented. So you had so many choices. You could be an artist. You could be a eurythmist and bring beauty through music, through movement. And you could be a house parent who was homemaking. So there was all these areas, and it's all being in adult social care, not so much, I don't think it's so much in children. It's kind of brought right down to just simply giving people choice. That's it. And I think there's a kind of a whole middle bit about being an adult, like giving our people a task. We're lucky, we've got a farm. So we can do this. We can connect with our people and work together with them to create for the other. And this is something about the Camp Hill impulse as well. It's the not just being selfish. It is actually about doing things for other. And I think that's a huge counterbalance to the world of rights and the world of entitlement. And I thought you put it beautifully when you spoke about accountability and responsibility. Responsibility is everyone taking on board what it is I'm charged with, or what it is I'm given to do, that I do this in the right way. It may not be what I want to do at the moment. It may not be. I might be in a really troubled space about how and what I'm going to go and do next, but to have mindfully, to be in action, doing what I do in the right way, I think that takes great courage, actually, with yourself, because you have to trust the future you're creating for yourself. And I do think young people haven't got an easy life, actually. I mean, it is a horrible time when the impulse started, but it's also very true. We're in a new age. And that's not my age. I've done my bit, you know. 50 years ago when I discovered spiritual science, the age of Aquarius was waved at us. So there we are, you know, I mean, I was too young to go to San Francisco. I'm sure I would have loved to have put flowers in my hair and charge off to San Francisco, but I was actually marginally too young and saved from that. But nevertheless, the promise, and I'm a bit miffed, because the promise was that the age of Aquarius was going to arrive. We were going to bring in the age of Aquarius and bask in it. And this would be an age of understanding, an age when human beings could live in harmony with each other and peace with each other. 50 years on, I'm aghast. Really? I'm aghast. I'm thinking, well, do I just say it's failed? Or must I be humble? Must I actually consider time isn't quite the same? That the ages and the seasons that go take a long time. And we have to go through this dying process. Here we are, we're looking here. It's gone past the spring green. It's just getting that darker colour. I mean, I do love the spring green, but it's getting darker, but it's starting to really flourish. We can see the flowers. It's beautiful. But it's only a few months and we're going to go into autumn. And I think we're probably in our autumn at the moment. And we have to, when it goes into autumn, we have to have hope that that plant is going to live it and come back next year. But we are going to be witnessing the dying process. We are going to witness that, and we must have faith. And we do, we just take it for granted, don't we? It'll bounce back. But when you apply that to epochs, and you apply that to our experience, this autumn can feel really, wow. I mean, it feels like a process of death, of course. And we're being taken into the earth, into Mother Earth herself in the winter, when everything goes down into the Mother Earth. And then we have the period of waiting, ready for the shoots to come back up. And actually, when I'm looking at what has happened in this wonderful movement of Camp Hill and other movements, many other, it's not just Camp Hill, you think, oh, this requires a lot of faith. And that's what courage is also. It does. This is an age that you're going into, as you said, of technology. And technology can be a good thing. I don't want to label it as bad because it's going to bring many gifts to humanity. It's going to help us go forward. But actually we need to be in charge of it, not in thrall of it. So your task is completely different to mine. I'm lazy when it comes to technology. I have no interest in it. I'll just answer an email and that's your lot. And I'll write things out if I have to. But when it comes to understanding Excel, the idea of Facebook, beyond me, anything like that, beyond me. I do not want to give it my time. I don't want it in my being. I trust you. You've all got it. You come with it. My little grandson, 9-year-old, is showing me what to do. I mean, it's humiliating, isn't it? But that's all right. That's all right. I just can't. I haven't got enough years left to give it. It would take me too long. It's not my job. But you're doing it. So it is going to bring something in. What is your task? That's my question. Your task as a human being, and I think Jan completely demonstrated this whole thing about connecting with each other. And it is certainly to stand as a human being. And it can be very difficult with AI being so clever. It can be very difficult with computers that know everything because the computer says it. But you are clever enough to know the truth. You probably find it, I would find it really overwhelming. I came into spiritual science because I found books in a jumble sale. We used to have these kind of little sales where people sent their rubbish and you went around and you rummaged around, and I found all these lovely books and I read them. What you do is sit there and scroll and you're on like that all the time. So many paths. The truth is all there. You have to choose. Well, that's very difficult. You could have a bit of this and a bit of that. I'm a Gemini. I'd be all over the place now. I'd never know what I was. Am I going to be a Buddhist? Am I going to be a Christian? I'd be everywhere. I'm a bit like that anyway. Bit of a pagan, a pinch of this and a pinch of that. So you have to find your path. When it comes to developing that certain quality of really knowing, that is inner work. What I saw there was inner work that is required to do the outer work. We're not going to be able to do the outer work without the inner work. And our everyday life, every day that demands effort from us, is an opportunity to strengthen your inner life. And what it also requires is an age of the mind, isn't it, Aquarius? The man with the water bearer. It's all about knowledge and the mind, the mind, the mind, the mind. But actually it really requires love. And the only way, it's the heart forces into the mind that are going to speak. I came across something the other week which was really exciting. I don't want to run out of time and miss, but it's a bit off-piste. But it's about, written from a wonderful woman who has passed recently, an eco-philosopher, Joanna Macy. Has anyone heard of Joanna Macy? There's all these wonderful women that have brought knowledge into the world. And what she spoke about and what she recounted, she wrote a book about connection. And she spoke about a Tibetan myth that the world will fall into destruction, that humanity will be threatened with destruction. And it must have felt like that in the beginning with what Camp Hill was doing. And technology will be a part of that. But what will come are Shambhala warriors. So when you're talking about Michael, I'm thinking Shambhala. I probably haven't pronounced it, I'm hopeless. However, these are going to be warriors who rise up slightly differently, who will walk the corridors of power, who will be able to relate to people. And that it's very interesting. They will come with compassion. And with compassion means that it's not that you're touchy-feeling, not at all. Compassion is about standing in pain, meeting the world pain. So they're going to be meeting it all the time. They're going to be feeling it. And they're going to be experiencing it. They have to experience the world pain, and they're going to be applying insight. And if wonderful insights, is there not, in Rudolf Steiner's lectures about the human being? They have knowledge of how things work. And they will be able, with true statesmanship, to stand in these corridors of power, and just illustrate through their bearing, through their truth. Michael carries a sword of truth, remember. Truth is like a razor's edge, because there's truth in many things that can cut through. I reckon it maybe take, 1,000 years, 500 years? How long is it going to take? How many incarnations? But you're on the path, all of you, to be a Shambhala warrior, because here you are underneath the banner of Michaelic youth. And Michael is the absolute head honcho of the archangels. So he is the man. And you're called Michaelic youth, and that's quite something. That is quite a big thing to carry in your life, and to meet that. But maybe the future is that you will be, in another life, a warrior who is going to be able to walk those corridors, because we're going to need that if this is true. I don't know, you get a feeling of it, don't you? A little bit of feeling of what's going on in the world. I can hardly believe when I look at how politicians talk to each other now. It's just astonishing how people can just lie, and that's all right. You can just say it's not true, it's a lie, and make up any kind of story, and people are gullible enough to believe you. So actually cutting through, using that sword to find truth, is a real difficulty. But if you find your path, and it may be through anthroposophy, it could be through Buddhism, it could be, but it's got to have purity. If it hasn't got love in it, forget it. It can't have arrogance. that arrogance isn't going to be accepted. The beauty of Camp Hill was simplicity. And with all the complications, with all this incredible lectures that people were reading and studying, they managed to live simply, in humility, actually. So there is a great beauty of that. And your task will be to try to find your path, where you can find your centre. I mean, I've been doing this for 50 years, I'm nowhere near. So, you know, even if you just get to the point where you can just begin, by the time it ends, that's how I feel I am now. I'm thinking to myself, oh God, and Tim said, I just want to give all this up because I'm going to have to learn to live at some point and not just keep doing things. Because maybe that's the point of when we start learning how to live. And we can take that forward into our next life when we have plenty of time. But in every moment of your day, you go forward with absolute love and dedication, but humour and joy and willing to meet the other. You will be making steps. And I'm just going to finish now. And there's one quote that Dr. Koenig gave us, one task here. And he says that Camp Hill, our task, to serve and not to rule, to help and not to force, to love and not to harm, will be our task. And that they did. I would say that they did. And it's now our task, it's your task. And if we can live our life very simply in that manner and have faith in that, then indeed Camp Hill will live on. So, thank you. Thank you very much.